Welcome to the Opinionated Geek podcast. This is the second Twitch podcast, and this will be our total episode 13 for the podcast. So, still trying to figure all this out and how to do it best, while still being able to interact with the podcast and also think about what I'm talking about. So it's kind of a new challenge since being introverted myself. I basically do a lot of thinking inside my head, or I think way too much, and therefore I usually have to think about what I'm saying a lot in order to get it out of me. And even then, I still stumble a lot all the time. So I tend not to talk a whole lot. So this is a whole new experience while still trying to look at the camera, trying to use the software, and trying to make sure everything goes smoothly, or at least somewhat smoothly. But overall, I didn't listen to the last podcast, but I did upload it. But overall, I think I did okay for my first time. I have been gone for a week because I had to house sit some people I know who actually they do the board games with me. So I house at their place, and obviously I can't bring my computer, and I don't have a laptop, so I can't really do any of this stuff while I'm gone. But I can never get a laptop, and it's always handy to whenever you like go to invest in a computer. I always go for the power over convenience. So I always end up getting a desktop PC over a laptop. But anyway, so luckily within that amount of time, though, I did get to do some stuff. Though I basically haven't been playing very many games. Obviously, with streaming, the thing that I've been playing is Witcher 3, and I've had to now currently backtrack a whole bunch and get past Witcher armors. So I've had to go back to the old world and like Novigrad and stuff like that, and collect the blueprints of the old armor so I can eventually get the Grandmaster Feline armor. Anyway, some of the stuff that I've been playing though was after they got back. Well, we got to do it a little bit before as well. Some of the stuff that I got to do as far as gaming is concerned is we did play a little bit of Shadows over Camelot, and that was pretty fun, though we basically played where there was no spy or no traitor. That's the proper term that they use. So there's no traitor, and it kind of gets you accustomed to the game. Eventually, hopefully, we'll start adding the traitor in and making the game a little bit more challenging, because some of the quests were just like, there's no challenge here because there's no traitor involved. So you just like the Black Knight quest, you just completed it. No issues, no problem. So I think once we start adding a traitor, and we were only doing 3 players too, so I think once we get to more than at least 4 players, I think it'll be really interesting. And the other one game that I actually bought quite a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, I bought the Game of Thrones Catan version, and our group seems to really like Catan. It's a very easy game to just have fun. Again, it sounds like it's really boring, but once you actually start playing and using it and experience it, then it seems to be like people have a lot more fun. But when you're describing it to people, people are like, you do what with this game? So a lot of people aren't really all that excited about the game until they start playing it. and this seems to be one of our favorite games. So I went ahead because it was on sale, and I did a price match on Target's website, and I got the actual Game of Thrones Catan because the game retails for $80. It's quite expensive, but you do get quite a bit, and actually it can double as another thing because it's got so many wildlings with its system, and basically these little miniatures that they got like giants, they got climbers, and then they got axemen, and basically they all have a little bit different features to them, but they give you like 30 probably little tiny miniatures that you could actually use for D&D if you wanted to. The uh the the normal like climbers and the axemen, they're a little bit tiny, so they could kind of, go with a tiny race type of thing. But the giants could go double as like ogres because they're like normal miniature size. Nonetheless, it's free miniatures. Well, not really free, but if you already have the game, it's like, hey, you can use it for this too. You can use it for D&D or whatever you want. But the Game of Thrones Catan, I got to learn firsthand with this game to not buy a first edition game, because you would think with the amount of money you put into purchasing a game like this, that there would actually be a little bit more quality control involved with it. But what I've come to find out is there is errors, lots of errors. Not anything to like completely destroy the game, but if you don't know what you're doing, hello, boy. This will be weird with the new audio because I've been doing audio podcasts, and now I'm doing the Twitch thing too. So there's people getting into the chat room. The issue with all the errors with Game of Thrones Catan is if you don't know what the heck you're doing, you could get a little confused. So basically what I've done was I had to help people understand what all the little errors were, and it can be kind of annoying. So it kind of sucks that you spend $80 for a board game like this and it has all these errors, and according to the company, they're not actually going to be issuing any fixes for the people that already own the game. So you actually have to go out of your way to fix it yourself. They literally have a whole new instruction manual that they have that you actually have to print out if you want all the errors fixed in the instruction manual. And then, of course, it still doesn't. It still actually has errors actually on the actual board pieces. So that's kind of a huge issue to me. So I need to get a labeler and fix those errors too. So it's kind of annoying, but again, our board game group loves Catan, so, and they like this version of the Catan too because they add hero cards as well. So hero cards add different effects along with the game, and it allows you to vary up the game a little bit. And then, of course, you got the actual wall that you have to actually defend with Game of Thrones Catan. So you basically have the wildlings coming over the wall, and you got to defend the wall. Otherwise, they really hurt you with getting resources, because you can't get resources if they're over on the other side of the wall. So that's Game of Thrones Catan. I did actually pick up Seafarers the other day, so we will be playing that. Not this weekend. We're playing D&D this weekend, so maybe the weekend after that. But Seafarers is the first expansion to the original Catan game. But anyway, so the next thing that I want to talk about is I have kind of mixed feelings about, but I went ahead and I saw Ready Player One. Now, I love the book. I've played it I've read it maybe 15 times, maybe. So I basically know the book back and forth, cover to cover type of thing. Uh, the way they did the movie compared to what the book is completely different. Almost too much, too different, if you ask me. Uh, the way I think about it is with the book. The book is very charming. It is a nostalgia fest to a certain extent, but in a charming way. The movie basically they've took everything from the book and basically tore it out, ripped it up, cut it up, and it isn't anything of its former self. Now, don't get me wrong. If it was not labeled Ready Player One as a movie, then I think I would really enjoy this because I wouldn't be able to tell. I'd be like, boy, this movie looks like it's really inspired by Ready Player One because it's got the same premise of the whole, you know, three keys and stuff. But they've completely took out like everything. There's no doorways. So basically, after they get the key just reveals the next clue. It doesn't reveal the doorway and the challenge within the doorway. So that was my biggest issue right there. Basically, they cut, you know, I would say half the movie in all reality because they took out those challenges. Um, the way they did stuff, they made. I just don't get why they did certain things the way they did. I understand licensing issues. You can't get certain things for the licensing, and that's fine. But they at least did the movie within the game type thing. So they did that. Like in the book, they did war games. This one, they did it for the second key. And it wasn't war games, but it was another film. I won't spoil it for those people that actually haven't watched it. But yeah, uh, at least they did that. But the relationship between Artemis and Parsifal, I thought was rushed. It didn't. There was no like chemistry. I mean, you didn't even have time to have chemistry. It's like, oh look, there's Artemis. Oh look, there's Artemis again. Oh, we're going dancing. Oh, I love you. And it's like, really? Within like 3 scenes, he's already saying he loves her. And granted, I realize he had feelings for her right away, but that's not the point. In the movie or the book, you got to have a little breathing room before, they were actually dating for a little while, or at least, online dating before he actually said, got the nerve to say, I love you. But it's like ridiculous. It was felt rushed. The one scene where, in the trailer where they say welcome to the rebellion, that didn't make any sense to me. It was basically, oh, we're going to, I don't want to reveal stuff, but basically that part made no sense. Like right before she actually says that, the scene before that and what happens, it made no sense. How it was mind-boggling why they did that. The all the challenges seemed very easy to understand and grasp. Obviously, reading the book, it's like, oh, that makes sense. But when you're actually trying to figure it out with Parsifal and trying to figure out what the deal is, it does seem very hard to understand, and you yourself understand the challenge. Where this one, it seemed like it was okay. They started the first challenge like right off the bat. That was the first. They start off with the first challenge like boom. There was no. They did a small introduction of kind of what's going on and what's happening in this world, and trying to set up the overall premise of the film. Like everybody's in a VR world and stuff. But after that, it's like okay, here's the race. The race is the first challenge, and they race it the first time. Oh, they failed. They couldn't do it. So within the next one, you're like, oh, well, this is what you do, and it just seemed the solution to the race and how to beat the race was like really within 5 years. Nobody attempted to do that. Nobody. It just doesn't connect. Uh, the the actual the end battle was actually kind of cool. They did have a funny thing there that I think a lot of people really enjoyed. I liked it, but even though it wasn't in the book, but yeah, for the most part, I'm like, I do like the film, but I don't like the film. It felt so rushed. It's again, the book has charm to it, where this one is like taking a baseball bat and like trying to keep you, keep your attention. So they're just rushing through stuffs, and I'm not a humongous fan of it. Also, the fact that IROC in the book was a footnote. He had one scene. Yeah, I'm pretty sure just one scene in the actual book where you actually got to see him, and then the rest of the time it was all, oh yeah, IROC did this, IROC did that, as the characters are talking about him. But they only talked about him like once or twice, and then he was done. He was out of the story completely. They made IROC a supporting character, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like he wasn't really needed. In fact, actually, it was kind of, I don't know. It just seemed pointless. But I guess it is what it is. Here's my problem, and I feel like that this was the downfall. Ernest Cline wrote the original screenplay for this film, and then he was like, "Okay, here you go." And then, of course, they're like, "Well, this ain't going to work, so we're going to have somebody else come in and help write it, and cut it down and do all these weird things." And then it was basically like, okay, we got Steven Spielberg and Ernest Cline. He's even admitted that as soon as he knew that Steven Spielberg was going to direct this film, all of his worries went away. And I'm like, well, that was your issue right there. They shouldn't have went away. They should always be critical. Yes, he is a good filmmaker, and yes, he can make some great films, but I felt like they did a disservice to the story. I think a lot of people are going to like this film if they've never read the book, but wow, I've read a lot of books, and I've watched the movies that those books were actually made into films, and a lot of films do a good to okay job. This, I don't feel like this. It doesn't even really resemble very much the overall thing. It's kind of weird that they can kind of call it Ready Player One when it's not. It's anything but for its former self. It's not even. I want to say it's not even Ready Player One. I do feel like people will like this film though, but if you're a crazy fan like me, I don't think you're you're willing to, I guess, accept some of the downfalls, but overall, this isn't this doesn't have the charm that Ready Player One originally had. And but again, I think it's because they had to try to make it also for everybody. So a lot of the kids or young teens won't even know a lot of the references, so they had to make it, uh, relatable. Because they even mentioned Holiday's favorite FPS game was GoldenEye, and I'm like, and was it Slaps Only? And I mean that's fun and all. And like, hey, I know GoldenEye. I grew up playing GoldenEye, but nowhere in the world does that say in the book that that's Holiday's favorite FPS. And if you ask me, it would probably be somewhere along the lines of Doom, because he was more old school. He'd be playing stuff a lot older. I'm not saying he didn't play Nintendo 64, but I would think even myself, being a teen during the Nintendo 64 era, I would even say, yes, Doom is my favorite FPS. Why? Because I can go and play it right now and still have a lot of fun playing it. Where GoldenEye, you can have a little fun, but it didn't age well. It looks the controls are horrible. Uh, it's clunky. There's a lot of stuff wrong with GoldenEye, and we just put on our nostalgia glasses when we talk about GoldenEye because we all had a lot of fun back in the day because we haven't mastered the first person shooter on console at that period of time. Uh, but anyway, Ready Player One, I would say go watch it if you haven't read the book, and then go read the book and really enjoy the book. Uh, but if you've read the book, you're it's hard to say if you're going to like it or not. But it is a fine film, but it does have its problems, and it is not what the book is. That's for sure. So anyway, I hope I made that as spoiler free as I possibly could. Uh, but anyway, going back to Ernest Cline and movies, uh, they are going to go ahead with Armada. Um, Again, I read this book too. It's definitely not Ready Player One. In fact, actually, I almost have to force myself to read it again. But this book, when I first started listening to it, because I mainly do audiobooks, unless it's like something I need to learn, then I'll actually get out a physical book. But for the most part, story wise, I tend to go for audiobooks because I can get through them while I'm doing other stuff. But Armada gave me chills at the beginning of the book because it was going down an area that I really really liked. The idea of conspiracy theories with the video games, and plus was it plus Polybus or whatever that was, the one that was spotted in, I think, Oregon, and basically it was apparently like FBI or something would actually go in at night and download stats to you know whatever. Angry Video Game Nerd actually did a two-parters video, I think it was, on the supposed arcade cabinet, and he did actually a really good job with that. But that beginning of this book was really really cool, and then in the end, the movie or the book turned out to be an Ender's Game, with also with I'm not positive because I haven't seen the movie, but the Last Starfighter. I think that's the one I'm thinking of that I heard that it was also like. And when somebody described, I think it was that film, it did have idea and premise behind it. But essentially, kid has been playing video games, these flight simulators, and like flight space simulators, I should say. And essentially, the government has been using video games and movies and stuff like that to get us used to the idea of basically fighting aliens and stuff like that. And all along, these space simulators are actually simulators to actually fly real drones and stuff. And basically, they got to go fight an alien race type of thing. So it's one of those things, types of books. Again, it's a lacking the originality of Ready Player One. Now, I'm not saying Ready Player One's original because it has a very basic concepts that it's dealing with, but it does have some charm to it. Where Armada doesn't seem to have that much charm to it. It's, I don't know. It's still a fun read, but it's not. It's definitely nowhere near Ready Player One. But anyway, they're going forward with this one as far as making it a movie. Now, I do feel that this will make a better movie because it's more straightforward. You don't have to really get into stuff. You don't have to explain stuff so much, and you don't have these mix of characters where you got their online persona and their physical persona. And that's the way I felt like with Ready Player One. They were like, well, we need to get these people their faces to be associated with the characters, so we need to get these characters together as a group of people right away. So that's what they kind of did. Oh yeah, going back to Ready Player One, at the very, 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 very beginning of the film, he's just like, "Oh yeah, there's Shoto and there's Daito," like right at the freaking beginning of the movie, and I'm like, "Oh, they're really just knocking one thing right after another." Like with introducing characters, it's like there's no story building with Ready Player One. That's, I guess, my biggest complaint. It's just, it goes right into it, and it's like, don't worry about those characters. We're going to get to them later, but this is Daito and this is Shoto. Okay. But it's like, I don't know. But anyway, get back on track. So Armada, they're making into a movie. I think it's a more straightforward type of film, and I think it'll do a lot better. It's just a shame that they couldn't do Ready Player One well. In fact, I would have liked them to. I'm not sure how long it was. It felt like an hour and a half. I wish they would have at least done 2 hours. But nonetheless, it is what it is. All right. Next bit of news. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading. Pokemon Go Niantic settles Pokemon Go Fest class action suit with $1.6 million payout. If anybody doesn't know what why that is a thing, basically when Niantic had some sort of gathering, they had Pokemon Go Fest, and basically they got all these people with these cell phones into a grouped up area, and it just was a complete mess because, well, we know how that works with phones. You try to get, all connected together, and you're trying to find Pokemon stuff and using internet all at the same time. You're going to have phone issues. You're going to have lots and lots and lots of technical issues. Anyway, it was basically a huge failure, and a lot of people bitched and complained, and they are now paying for it. And I'm not sure how much Pokemon Go is still making money, but that's a lot of money to be paying out, because granted, Pokemon Go did really well when it first came out, but the long run is, I don't know how well they're doing as far as that goes, though. And then that's really all I got about that. And I'm like, if anybody plays Pokemon Go, it's like, yay. And you probably went to that. Maybe you get some money. Well, I guess we'll find out. Uh, on some cool news, Middle Earth: Shadow of War. No, it's Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers. Shizui. Ubisoft. I was just thinking of towers and climbing towers. Granted, I haven't played Shadow of War, but I did play the other one, and there was towers. But they're finally, after 6 months after release, even though all the people in the world said you're just grinding for these loot boxes, and the loot boxes aren't necessary, etc., etc., etc. So 6 months after the release, Shadow of War is finally removing microtransactions. Why? Because it was stupid, pointless, and it basically, because they had to do all that grinding, people didn't want to. Well, that's what it was. You could either grind for hours and hours and hours and hours to get the same benefit as somebody who pays to get these loot boxes to finish the game. And I guess what they're finally getting rid of them, because everybody probably stopped playing this stupid game, and they're probably not making any money, because I think everybody's, for the most part, when it comes to certain games, if it's a game like Shadow of War, I'm sorry, it's a fun, entertaining game, but I'm not going to be using your platform as a so-called service, and you're not going to be making money off of me. I'm going to be playing that game until I get bored with it, and then I'm done with it. If I beat it, I beat it. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to be putting money into a game like that. It's not like Overwatch, where I'm like, oh, there's that new skin that I, for whatever reason, need to have. Yeah, but I spent, I think, a total of $50 extra on Overwatch. So not bad, not bad compared to some people. But yeah. So there's that. Uh, I'm happy to see companies start to do that. It's just a shame that they actually have to try to weasel out as much money as they possibly can before they're going to remove them. So, Alrighty. Next thing I'm going to talk about is games with Prime. I'm not sure if I said about this last podcast, but Amazon is now giving away free games every month. So it's kind of like Humble Bundle, except free if you're paying into Prime. But, you know, I think everybody should be paying into Prime because it's a good service, and they keep on giving you stuff. Just giving you more and more stuff. But anyway, this month they're giving you Underworld Dig 2, Kingsway, Tales from the Borderlands, Dub Wars, and Tokyo 42. I'm actually kind of curious about Kingsway because that's the one that looks like an old Windows 95 game, and you play the game inside what appears to be like an emulation of Windows 95 or 98 or one of those old school Windows. Maybe it's Windows 3.1. I think that's what it was. That was a little bit before me. I started with my first computer at Windows 95, though I did know some friends that were into computers back with I think it was Windows 3.1. Anyway, go get your games right now. It's available through April 30th if you haven't gotten them. Also, I actually wanted to comment on PUBG Mobile. Now, this is kind of funny. I have a iPhone 6. I believe it's a 6. It's been so long since I bothered upgrading, and I don't care to upgrade because my phone's still working. But I think it's an iPhone 6. I don't think it's an S. But, you know, they got Fortnite as well on iOS and also PUBG Mobile. So I go and download Fortnite because I'm like, well, let's see how this works on my phone. Even though I can play it on my PC, I'm just like, let's see how this works. Having an actual full-fledged game on a mobile device, it just seems like a horrible, horrible idea. Well, ironically, even though Fortnite can run on pretty crappy PCs, it, for whatever reason, cannot play on my iPhone 6. So that was a no go. It also can't play on my iPad mini because it's the iPad mini second, or second, iPad mini 2. So it can't play on any of my devices. So I'm just like, well, this is a waste of time, but let's try PUBG because we all know how PUBG works. You need to have an awesome computer. You need to have just really good specs. And even though I can still play it right now on my PC, it still chugs along, and it's not very fun. Basically, because it also looks like crap because I have to put it on low settings. So I go and install it on my phone. It does take a little time when it comes to starting it up. It might have issues and might close down, but once I after like the second startup or whatever, it will actually run. And ironically, as you can see by right there, uh, it says Darkmare, winner winner chicken dinner. I played my original game on my iPad, and I already said right out of the gate, I'm like, I like this version, I think, a lot better than the PC version. Mainly because my bias of the fact that I actually got to play it the first round that I've ever played it on the mobile version, and I got 4 kills. I only got 14 hours into the PC version, and the most I've ever gotten was 3 kills. And I definitely know most of those kills were by accident. Like, I just happened to like run up on them when they didn't know I was there, or I just got lucky, plain and simple. Because every time I get involved with somebody who actually plays these games on a regular basis, because I don't play FPS games a whole lot anymore, they know what the heck they're doing, and I'm dead, that's for sure. So right off the bat, I got 4 kills on my first game. So I was like, okay, I think I like this version a lot better. But surprisingly, the controls aren't that bad. I was really surprised. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the controls are a lot better when you are using a tablet, because your field of view is not covered and you got smaller controls. So therefore, you can see a lot more, and your fingers aren't covering up half the screen like with the iPhone. But this picture right here, I was actually playing on an iPhone, and I got 15 kills in solo mode, and I actually I got my chicken dinner. So again, I think this is a personally, if you ask me, if you're going to play it, PUBG, I would almost think you play the mobile version because it runs 10 times better than the PC version. You can actually play the stupid thing, and it's not like having chopping issues and stuff like that. Anyway, I think that will be the podcast. If anybody was watching, thanks. If not, that is okay, because I am going to upload this to YouTube so I can actually have it on YouTube, and then I'm going to upload it on the audio. And it actually worked out great. I mean, the sound quality isn't as great because I'm streaming it, and then I'm taking that and turning it into audio. So it's not as great as like when I was doing my audio podcast alone, and then mixing it down into an MP3. That sounded way better. But the versatility of being able to do this is far superior. And then basically what I do is I download this video, and I go into VLC, and I can convert it right to audio with VLC. I don't need any special programs or anything like that. So this is a great little system, and I'm happy that it's working out as well as it's doing. Hey, Cyclops, I am just ending this podcast right now, so sadly, I'll be just saying hello and then goodbye. But anyway, that is all for now, and I will probably start be streaming more Witcher next tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, it should be tomorrow. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.